Yeah.
It's the game no one is talking about. A matchup between two great FCS teams as Central Arkansas travels to the Fargodome to take on North Dakota State in what many are calling the Trey Lance Showcase game. And man, this is going to be a fantastic matchup. It's such a unique matchup at that. And it really deserves a lot more attention going into Week 5. Many FCS teams and conferences postponed their seasons at least until the spring. UCA and North Dakota State were some of the few that chose not to do that. The Bears are actually playing a 10-game schedule. They've already played 3 games and have 3 matchups on their schedule against FBS opponents. North Dakota State, this is the only game they are playing in 2020. Major reason why many believe this is just a showcase game for Trey Lance and some other athletes that could be potential NFL prospects going into 2021. But regardless, this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a fun one at one of the best venues in all of college football in the Fargodome. And the Bison, despite this being the only game of the season, despite UCA having already played 3 games, the Bison are 23-point favorites at home. And again, guys, that spread brought to you by BETNOW.EU. Make sure to check that link out down in the description below. Use our promo code Gridiron for that 100% sign-up bonus. That's where we get all of our spreads. That's where we place all of our bets. We've enjoyed working with the guys over at BetNow for over a year now. And it is the best place anywhere to place your bets for college football, NFL, NBA, MLB, you name it, they've got it. They've got the best lines, the best spreads, the best opportunities, and the best payouts over on BETNOW.EU. So make sure to go check it out right now down in the description below and jump on this line. Whether you're for the Bears or the Bison, it's going to be a good one. So let's take a look at this game here, guys. You know, FCS teams like this don't get enough attention. They certainly don't get the attention that they should. And that's why we led with that. This game is one that no one's talking about. We've got, you know, Georgia and Auburn, Oklahoma and Iowa State, Alabama, Texas A&M. So many big games in Week 5 that this game, scheduled for 2:30 p.m. Central Time over on ESPN+, isn't getting talked about enough. And it should be. Because it features arguably the best quarterback, or at least one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Not just in the FCS, but in the country. And that is Trey Lance. And as we break down this offense, that's who we're going to start with North Dakota State. Trey Lance, he is the offense. He's the man. Listen to these stats, guys. It's unbelievable. As a freshman last year with the Bison, Trey Lance threw for over 2,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, and completed 66.9% of his passes. He also added 1,100 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. So Trey Lance accounted for over nearly 4,000 yards on the year and 42 total touchdowns. But get this. This is the stat that is the most mind-boggling to me, and one of the reasons that Trey Lance will be one of the first quarterbacks selected in the 2021 NFL Draft, if in fact he chooses to go pro. This stat right here, no interceptions. Trey Lance, true freshman quarterback with North Dakota State, did not throw an interception all season long in 2019. So 42 touchdowns, 16 games. He led the Bison to a 16-0 record and a national championship victory over James Madison. 16 games, and he didn't throw a single interception. That is unreal. Find me another quarterback in the country that can do that. You can't. And don't you dare say it's because he's playing lesser competition, because he played some pretty dang good competition within the football championship subdivision. So Trey Lance, he's the man. He led the Bison to 37.3 points per game last year. And ironically, despite him being the quarterback, despite them airing it out quite a bit, North Dakota State averaged more yards on the ground than they did through the air. They averaged 287.6 rushing yards per game, while they averaged just 181.9 passing yards per game. So this is a run-heavy team in North Dakota State, one that will certainly challenge this UCA defense. And when you look at the Bison here, guys, their running backs return. Adam Cofield returns for North Dakota State after racking up 813 yards in 2019. Kobe Johnson also returns. He had 660 yards on the ground in 2019. And as if Trey Lance and this offense couldn't get any better, he returns his top 2 wide receivers in Christian Watson, who led the team with 732 reception yards, and also Phoenix Sproles. Both those guys are back, the top 2 wide receivers from last year. This offense, in the only game they're going to play this season, might be dang near unstoppable. UCA, on the other hand, they are no slouch offensively, but the problem is, after every game, they've played 3 games, they're sitting at 2-1 right now. After every game, their offensive stats have declined. They've declined after every single game. They are averaging 32 points per game this season, which is a fantastic mark. Not a bad mark. You might be in store for a potential shootout up in the Fargodome. But against Austin Peay in UCA's first game, the only game of week 0, really got this college football season underway, UCA put up 460 yards against the Governors. Not too bad. The next week, when they played UAB, they put up 293 yards. Again, not too bad. UAB, a solid team out of the Conference USA. Pretty solid defense as well. Last week against Missouri State in Conway, a home game for the Bears, they only put up 177 yards of offense. Only 177 yards of offense. That includes just 79 passing yards and 98 rushing yards. Under 100 yards in both categories, and yet somehow the Bears still won that game 27-20. To me, that's a testament of how solid this defense is and has been so far, and something that might have to bail them out in this game against North Dakota State if UCA wants to have a chance to go out and spoil the Trey Lance Showcase game at one of the most difficult venues to play in all of college football. I look at UCA so far this season. I had very high expectations for their quarterback in BREYLIN Smith. He was one of the better returning quarterbacks in the FCS going into 2020. But he's only put up 555 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions this season. So those stats, very lackluster. Nowhere near the stats that he was putting up back in 2019. They do return a running back here in Kier Crossley. He's averaging 6.2 yards per carry and does have 2 touchdowns on the year. So if BREYLIN Smith starts to struggle, you might have to lean more on Crossley and hope he's able to find some holes, and hopefully he can maybe run some time off the clock and keep this offense from North Dakota State off the field. The longer you can do that, the better a chance UCA has to stay in this game and maybe somehow pull off an upset on Saturday afternoon. I want to take a look at the defenses here now. You know, you take a look at the offense, and there's no doubt about it. North Dakota State owns that offensive edge from top to bottom. You can't tell me differently. You can't tell me differently. Whether it's wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, obviously the quarterback position, North Dakota State owns that offensive edge, and it's going to be a nightmare for this UCA defense to stop. The thing is, UCA's defense has been pretty dang good this year. They're 2-1, despite the offense getting worse and worse every single week. 2-1 despite that. One thing and one major reason that UCA is hanging in these games, winning these games, and making up for the poor offense is because they're getting a lot of turnovers. That's something that for any college football team, if you're able to commit to rack up turnovers, to force turnovers, you have a chance to win the game regardless of how poorly your offense is playing. Not only have they forced turnovers, guys, but 2 of the turnovers that they've had have resulted in touchdowns. UCA has forced 9 turnovers in 3 games this season. They're averaging 3 turnovers forced per game. They're allowing 218.7 passing yards per game. They're allowing 142.3 rushing yards per game. So neither of those stats too bad there. Obviously, the passing yards per game number is a little bit sketchy. And honestly, if I had to pick a stat, I'd pick the rushing games. The rushing yards allowed is the one that I would be more concerned about, considering Trey Lance's dual threat ability and the fact that he has 2 capable running backs, both who rush for over 600 yards, to go along with him. So UCA is going to have to tighten up on the run game. If you can make North Dakota State one-dimensional, you certainly have a better chance to win the game. But UCA, they've done a good job forcing turnovers here. The thing is, if you're going to force turnovers, those turnovers are going to come from the running backs. Because I can tell you, you're not going to intercept Trey Lance. I don't think Trey Lance throws his first interception of his career against UCA on Saturday. And the thing is, UCA, out of the 9 turnovers that they forced, the Bears, 6 of those 9 have been fumbles. They haven't even been interceptions. 6 of those 9 have been fumbles. A couple of those returned for scoop and scores. So that's obviously a plus for the Bears coming all the way out of Conway. So something to kind of keep your eye on there is while Trey Lance, I don't think those are an interception. Maybe he gets strip sacked. Maybe the running backs cough it up. Maybe the wide receivers cough it up. But I do think Lance's interception record stays perfect going into Saturday and at the conclusion of Saturday's game. For North Dakota State, let's take a look at their defense. The scary thing is, for a team that has won so many national championships within the FCS, we know defense wins championships. We know their offense has been great. This is a program, guys, that has developed fantastic quarterbacks over the years. Carson Wentz, Easton Stick, now Trey Lance. So everybody focuses so much on North Dakota State's offense, their defense doesn't get nearly as much attention as they deserve. Their defense last year was just as good as their offense. The Bison allowed just 12.3 points per game in 2019. That, again, is one of the best defensive marks, not just in the FCS, but in the entire country. Among all college football teams, FCS and FBS, that's one of the best marks in the country. That's how much talent that North Dakota State has. And that's extremely, extremely scary. We do know that the Bison lose some key pieces. We know that. Namely, Jabril Cox, who is now transferred to LSU. I believe had a pick 6 in LSU's game against Mississippi State. They did lose that game by 10, but what a debut for Cox, going from one national championship team in North Dakota State to another in LSU and already making an immediate impact there for Ed Ogeron down in Baton Rouge. Outside of him and a couple other key losses, North Dakota State is extremely experienced, and their defense last year was very, very stingy. 136.1 rushing yards per game allowed, 138.6 passing yards per game allowed. So they're very, I would say, balanced in their numbers, both offensively and defensively. And again, like we mentioned with UCA, if I had to pick one defensive stat that was my area of concern, it would be the rushing yards per game allowed from North Dakota State. That could be a huge benefit for Crossley, the running back for UCA. Maybe he does find a couple of holes. Maybe he is able to squeak out a few runs, gets a couple first downs. The UCA has got to be able to go out there and extend these drives. Because if they're unable to, quick 3 and outs, couple turnovers here and there, North Dakota State will quickly run away from this game. So while we talk so much about the quarterbacks, obviously Trey Lance, the key player for the Bison in this game, it could be Kier Crossley. That is the key player for UCA in this game. And the key as to whether or not this game is over by halftime or whether UCA is covering the spread and maybe could put up a bigger fight than many are expecting. So there is an offensive breakdown for both teams. There's a defensive breakdown for both teams. Obviously, UCA's strength for them is their defense. In fact, they forced so many turnovers and have scored off of those turnovers. The strength of North Dakota State, obviously, is their quarterback in Trey Lance. Again, I don't think this game is solely being played for Trey Lance, but I do think it's a major reason for it. I think there's one of the major reasons they are playing this game is for Trey Lance, for NFL scouts to get one last good look at him before we believe he ultimately decides to, become eligible and declare for the NFL draft. So what's going to happen in this game? Up in the Fargodome, a place high on my list of stadiums to visit, one of the most, toughest environments to play in college football, one of the loudest environments to play in college football. Of course, we're not going to get that full experience on Saturday due to COVID-19, but anything is better than nothing. And in this game on Saturday afternoon, one key storyline you have to think about is, will North Dakota State's rust show in this game? UCA's battle-tested. They have played 3 games already, one of which came against UAB, again, a solid Conference USA team, where they only fell by 10 points and put 35 points up on the Blazers. So UCA has played 3 games. North Dakota State has played none. They have not played a single game since they won that national championship over James Madison back in January. So you look at this and you say, okay, that's obviously a cause of concern, but North Dakota State has known about this game for months now. They've known they were going to play Central Arkansas for months now, which means they have had months, weeks on end to prepare for one opponent and one opponent only. UCA, on the other hand, has only had a week to prepare. 1 week to prepare for the Bison, while the Bison have had weeks on end to prepare for one team. They've been able to watch film. They've been able to watch UCA in those 3 games, prepare for them. UCA, the only film they have to watch of North Dakota State is footage of last year. And I can tell you that Matt INTS, the head coach for North Dakota State, has a few tricks up his sleeve to go out there and pull off this win and catch UCA by surprise, since they really don't have anything to base this game off of. They don't have any film to base this team off of. So in the Fargodome, the Bison are going to start slow, to be expected. Expect them to start a little bit slow. Expect them to come out a little bit rusty. I wouldn't be surprised to see UCA take an early lead. But there is no way that North Dakota State loses this game. And if, in fact, they do start slow, they're going to turn things around very, very quickly, just like they always do. North Dakota State, and their only game of 2020, a showcase game for Trey Lance and all the other athletes that are hoping to start playing on Sundays in the near future, win this game by at least 14 points. North Dakota State will win this game by at least 14 points. It is a game that you do not want to miss. If you don't have ESPN Plus, go out and get it because you need it. Because this may be the last time you get to see one of the better college football quarterbacks play in his career. Maybe the last time you get to see Trey Lance play college football. We only got to see him. This will be his 17th game. A career, unfortunately, cut short, but one that we will definitely continue to see at the next level. The North Dakota State takes down the Bears in a battle between FCS powers. They win the game by at least 14 points. And the Bison continue their insanely, ridiculously long winning streak, I believe now up to 38 games. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Of course, check out everything down in the description below. Go place your bets for this weekend over on BETNOW.EU. Sign up using our promo code GRIDIRON for that 100% sign-up bonus. Our expert picks are already out on our website. If you're not signed up for those, make sure to do that as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter. Sign up for that exclusive content over on Patreon. None of that, I can promise, you will want to miss. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.